Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Keenan's Cutting Edge on Fridays. Fridays with Keenan's Cutting Edge. It's been a while. It's good to see you again. My name is Jenna Labor, and I will be your host where we explore the dynamic world of Don Keenan's trial philosophy, The Cutting Edge. Those of you joining us live this afternoon have the opportunity to ask questions and interact with our speaker. If you have a question or a comment or something you want to talk about, please type it into the comments section below the video and we will be sure to address it. Episodes are released each week following the live broadcast, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and click the alerts icon to make sure you don't miss an episode. Today, we have David Hoey with us to talk about the future of nursing home litigation. David has been on the podcast with us a couple of times before. We are so excited to have him back. As we age, we have a greater chance of being affected by nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and other places where we put our vulnerable loved ones and where we may find ourselves someday. So it can cause us to look at these cases a little bit differently. And we all age every day. We're all getting closer to the possibility of having to experience one of these facilities. So I'm excited to hear what David has to share with us today about the kind of litigation that may arise and maybe some things that we can do to protect ourselves and our loved ones from litigation ever even having to take place. David Hoey is a legend in this area. He hails from Massachusetts. Obviously, you all know how important he is to the Keenan law firm and the Keenan Trial Institute families. We will put a link to his website as well as his contact information in the description below, so you can reach out to him directly with any follow-up questions after today, maybe anything we didn't address. If you're listening to the recording of this one and you didn't get a chance to ask a live question, feel free to send an email. All right, David, let's get into it. Tell us what is going on in nursing home litigation and where is it going?
Two very good questions. Well, COVID has a lot to do with what's going on with nursing home care and quality of care today.
Okay.
And so prior to COVID showing up, the nursing home industry was starting to improve in quality of care and quality of life. And there was a long struggle of litigation and regulations and training of staff and supervision of staff. And the nursing home started to take a turn. And I would see type of cases that I would end up seeing were falls and fractures, some sexual assaults, unfortunately, falls to head trauma, urinary tract infections that cause significant things, some dietary issues. I wasn't seeing, this is all pre-COVID, I wasn't seeing pressure ulcers anymore. I wasn't seeing dehydration, malnutrition, medication overdoses, things like that. They seem to be almost a thing of the past.
Wow. So our work had been making a difference, or your work, but the greater personal injury which is the ideal, what we really want to see out of what we do for a living is that the things that we're litigating don't happen anymore.
Well, yeah, I mean, the litigation has multiple levels, right? You want responsibility and accountability for what happened. You want to deter the nursing home industry from doing these bad things anymore. When punitive damages are allowed, it does send a loud, clear message across all the nursing homes who are similarly situated. But it also educates. The litigation educates the public, and it educates the judges, and it forces change within the industry. And plaintiffs' lawyers like myself, who have been doing this for close to 30 years, are advocates. They call us litigators. We got to keep the litigators out of the courtroom. No, we're advocates. And most of the time in a nursing home case, you're advocating for somebody who doesn't have a voice, doesn't have a family, doesn't have support. One of the reasons why they're in a nursing home, unfortunately. Many people in a nursing home don't have a choice. They're there because they don't have a choice. They have memory impairment issues. They need 24-hour-a-day skilled nursing care or monitoring or supervision, which just cannot be provided by family who have to work, 40-hour week or what have you. Very, very difficult. I'll talk in a minute how things are shifting. So many, many years at play, many litigation in all 50 states and Massachusetts, in the United States, things were changing. Not perfect, far from perfect, but things were changing. And I was seeing a different type of claim, a different type of case, different types of wrongful deaths. Then COVID came, and it came fast, and it came hard. It started in Washington, in a nursing home, and went through there like a wildfire. And then that was in February of 2020. Within a month, it was everywhere. But it hit the coasts the most. It hit Washington hard. It hit Massachusetts hard. It hit New York hard. And then it started to hit everywhere else. Florida and through the central part of the states and through Texas and all the way over through California. But the first two areas hit the hardest, state of Washington, Massachusetts, and New York. Those are ports where many people come. And so COVID, we know, did not originate here, originated somewhere else. It came over, went through the nursing homes like wildfire. And then it went through everybody else. And it became a pandemic. And so 2020, 2021, half of 2022-ish, we were kind of in a shutdown. Right? We couldn't get the care that was needed to the people in the nursing homes fast enough. Or the shots, and families couldn't visit, doctors couldn't get access to their patients. It was a major problem. And many, so that 3 times, many nursing home residents passed away as a result of COVID. A lot of the states put immunity in place.
Yeah, they did here in Washington.
Yeah, they did here in Massachusetts too. That during the COVID pandemic, you couldn't sue the nursing home or any healthcare provider for that matter, because of COVID, except they made, except for gross negligence. But in order to prove that level, you had to get a bunch of information that you were foreclosed from getting. So it was really a time in which you couldn't bring a claim, nor do I think those claims would have resonated well with the jury. And I'll talk about that in a second too. So what happened is you have the industry struggling on what to do. And then COVID it's still here, by the way, but COVID kind of faded away. We found a way to handle it and manage it, and all the restrictions started to be removed, and the courts opened back up again. And what I found as of the end of 2022 is that the nursing homes, many of them closed. Many of them shut down. Okay. And then I had learned that they lost a tremendous amount of caregivers, not just to COVID, but they don't want to go back to the industry because the industry is too hard. So now you're left with a bunch of nursing homes that survived COVID, right? They survived COVID. And a jury of today, at least my testing of the juries of today, will give some credit to a nursing home that survived COVID. because a lot of nursing homes got wiped out. And the caregivers who made it through and are still caring for people in nursing homes, a jury's going to give them some credit. There is, even though they're not supposed to consider sympathy, we know that, but they all do. It's just, it's nature, right? They're going to give those caregivers and those nursing homes some sympathy. So now, post-COVID, if you're going to bring a case, you better have an egregious injury. Mm-hmm. And what I'm seeing now is the pressure ulcers are back. Mm-hmm. The dehydration's back. The malnutrition's back. The medication overdoses are back. Mold cases. Catheters full of mold. Buildings full of mold. Ants. Ant infestation in a woman's pressure ulcer on her backside was full of sugar ants. Those tiny little pesty tiny ones. You can't even kill them when you try to squeeze them between your fingers. Infested with little ants. Down south, it's maggot infestations. Which, yeah, these are things that stopped. Mm-hmm. Didn't see it anymore. It ended. Now it's back. So that's telling me that the quality of care is not good right now. But it's as a result of COVID. Mm-hmm. The nursing homes lost so many caregivers that what they're left with is bad quality of care.
And if they're not being held accountable as much, because maybe a jury feels a little bad, then they're not, all that work has kind of been undone, because who's going to hold them accountable?
That's true, and they're going to give passes a lot. So you got to have a serious, you got to have a chronic neglect case or an abuse case that's going on right now, if it's in a nursing home. Mm-hmm. Two new problems that are occurring in the nursing home industry post-COVID. A lot of insurance companies don't want to insure nursing homes anymore.
Yeah, that's insurance companies' new thing. Well, we're just not going to insure here anymore. This whole state, we're not coming in anymore. This whole industry, we're not doing it anymore.
That's right. And so you're finding nursing homes that don't have liability insurance. So if they do or neglect or abuse somebody, they might try to settle on a payment plan with no guarantee, right? Is that fair to the plaintiff? No, absolutely not. Do they tell the plaintiff when they're admitted to the facility, hey, you should know something. If we abuse or neglect you, we don't have any professional liability insurance that you can tap into.
Yeah.
And by the way, we're a big LLC, so you can't pierce us.
Can't get the owners. Yeah.
So
everybody put this on your list for your loved ones or yourself or whatever, the to-do list. Ask if there's liability insurance. Okay, I'd never thought of that. That's interesting.
That's become a big problem. I took 2 phone calls today from a big TV advertising law firm. Oh, yeah, Mr. Hoey, we'd like to refer these 2 great cases to you. I said, let's start by giving me the name of the facility. He gives me the name of this facility. And I said, that's an assisted living facility. It's not a nursing home. They have mandatory arbitration, and they're self-insured. They don't have insurance. He's like, how can that be? I said, not every state requires to have a license to have professional liability insurance. They can be self-insured. SIR, self-insured, is they're paying out of their own pocket their insurance. So that's the problem. So before I look at a case, you got to have an egregious injury. I have to have a poor quality of care facility. It's got to have no arbitration provision in the admission paperwork. It's got to have insurance. There's got to be something we can tap into.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the shift I'm starting to see post-COVID, that there's going to be jury sympathy for the nursing home and caregivers, even though the nursing homes that survived COVID are lacking in staff, quality staff, but understandably why.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the nursing homes,
it, right? It's excusable, kind of a.
Yeah. Right. I can see why I don't want to go in that profession.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, you have potentially no liability insurance or a high SIR before insurance kicks in. So those are the issues currently. There's another issue. So what's happening? People don't want to send their loved ones to a nursing home anymore. So they put in play home health care.
Mm-hmm.
They also are prematurely putting loved ones, or doctors are prematurely putting family members into hospice care, right? Now, hospice normally used to mean you got 6 months or less of life to live, and you're going to be in comfort care measures only, the dignity of life, and look at former President Carter. He was put in the hospice a year and a half ago. So let's start with the home health care problem. So not all home health care is paid for by state or federal aid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so if it's not going to be covered by state or federal aid, Medicare or Medicaid, you'll be paying privately, either through private insurance for some of the services. Like if a nurse has to come once a day for medication management or something, that may be covered. But the 24/7 supervision or monitoring is not going to be covered. You'll be paying out of your pocket. And you may have to retrofit your home for someone who's suffering from Alzheimer's or dementia type and need that kind of care. The special, you got to pad everything. You have to have a special chair for the staircase. You have to move the bedroom down to the first floor, lower the bed to the ground. There's a bunch of things that has to take place. So there's a cost. There's a cost to that too. And then the caregivers that come to the home are equivalent to a certified nurse's aide. Mm-hmm. They're not licensed practical nurses. They're not registered nurses. That would be way too expensive to have a licensed nurse sit in your home 24/7, mm-hmm. or 8 hours a day when you're out working and they need somebody to sit with them. So what's happening is these caregivers are coming into the home, and they are, how do you put it? It's a form of neglect. It's a form of abuse. They'll put them to bed all day, right? They'll pull the shades down, make it dark, put them to bed all day. So then the family comes home, and now their loved one's up all night.
Yeah.
Because they got their days and nights reversed.
Yeah.
Then we have the aides who are lazy, who sit on the couch and watch TV at a very loud decibel and force the person that they're monitoring to watch TV with them and don't meet their needs, where they end up soiling themselves or urinating on themselves. Or we've had a few that have gotten up, walked to a staircase, fell down a staircase, or
left the house, walked down the street.
Yeah, with a monitor there.
Yeah.
We've had personal items stolen. It seems so. It's not in every situation, but this is becoming a common problem. So families have been putting in the granny cams. However, a granny cam in your home in most states is legal. A granny cam placed in your mom or dad's nursing home room may not be legal. In fact, it may be illegal. Families are doing it anyhow and seeing all sorts of things. And this is disgusting. And the nursing home industry has been countering with criminal prosecution for those people.
I was going to say, what does that do for liability? I mean,
it's like, holy cow, can you believe it? We catch the neglect and abuse on tape, but it's being taped illegally. And therefore, the nursing home's like, well, we're still going to come after them criminally. We might be responsible civilly, but we're going after them criminally. It's really a bad scene out there.
Wow.
So the nanny cam thing, granny cam thing, you got to be very careful. You got to find out whether you can do it or not. But, you know, I would say 8 out of 10 times it's legal to do in the privacy of your own home. And that's how we've been catching, families have been catching, and then can bring it to my attention, these home healthcare problems.
Are you finding that they have the same challenges where you've got limited liability insurance or other problems with these home health aides, or no?
Not yet. Okay. Right now, the home health aid industry is well insured.
Okay.
You know, because it's kind of new. You know, and it's not a true nursing home setting. So right now, they've been well insured from what I see. And look, at a home health care agency or a home health care company does not want bad publicity or being dragged through a court case because it's going to ruin their image and their business.
True, I guess, because versus the nursing home where you likely don't have a choice, like this is your last resort, you're in there, versus you know, choosing to have somebody come into your home.
You're going to die in a nursing home.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a place to die. Okay, a jury understands that, and a jury accepts that, right? And the jury says, okay, well, that's where they're going to die. That's going to be their place to die, but we still want them to die with dignity. And we still want the caregivers to be caring, loving caregivers. And we still want the caregivers to know the effects of medication, because there's so many medications right now, and deal with the effects of medication on elderly people. And the last thing that the juries want is a nursing home that communicates with the doctor and with the family. The one thing that angers the jury the most is the lack of communication. The lack of communication between each other and the lack of communication with the family and other medical professionals. It just drives them nuts.
Yeah.
So I know the triggers, you know, and those are the things I look for in the case nowadays. What's the quality of the staff? Do they care? What's the communication that goes on in the facility? Is the family always fully informed? This goes to the old informed consent type stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Is the doctor who's assigned to the resident in the nursing home fully informed? Because the nursing home staff, they're the eyes and ears of those doctors. The doctors aren't there 24/7. And does the staff understand the effects of the medication that's being provided? You know, I used to have all these Coumadin cases, blood thinner cases.
Yeah.
And if an injury occurred to somebody, they can quickly bleed out. So, and I've had one case where they've given too much Coumadin and the person died, is suffocated on their own blood, basically. So you got to know the effects of the medication and know how to deal react to it. And in certain medications, you have to have on time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't delay it. Like psychiatric type medication. We're working on a case where there's a homicide in a nursing home. Why did that happen? Why did one roommate kill the other roommate? Because they didn't get his damn meds.
Roommate situations make me really nervous in a nursing home scenario. You know, I mean, these are strangers that you don't know what their health stuff is. And yeah.
Mental illness or dementia, they act out. They don't mean to act out.
Right. And they have no idea what they're doing. And they can't think about it. They can't rationalize it and say, okay, so this is what the person did. How should I respond and what's appropriate? They don't have that anymore.
No, it's so you have to have the staff that know how to handle that.
Mm-hmm.
And medication, if it's twice a day, it's got to be given at the same time twice a day. You know, there's a reason that it's twice a day, maybe 12 hours or what have you, or else it won't work.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same with over medication. So let me switch to hospice for a moment. So a lot of people are being placed in the hospice that don't really need hospice. And then there's people that really need hospice that aren't getting hospice. But hospice can be a very good last 6 months or less to live. Hospice facilities are usually very small, so they're more manageable. And usually everybody in a hospice facility has the same issue. They're in the dying stages, mostly cancer, but it could be other things. And so a hospice nurse or a hospice caregiver know how to deal with that stuff. And comfort care measures is very important. Morphine is provided an awful lot, and other types of pain management. And you don't have to worry too much of the person being addicted to the pain management because they're in their technically within the last 6 months of their life, you know, and managing pain is a dignity issue. Mm-hmm. You don't want somebody to suffer in pain. So hospice can be a very good thing. You know, I really don't knock hospice. I wrote a very long article about the pros and cons in hospice a couple years ago. But the number one problem that I find with hospice is they're accepting individuals that don't need hospice.
And then that creates problems for people who do need it to get in there.
Yeah, well, not just that, you're also pushing somebody to the death line quicker.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
They're few and far between, but they exist.
Is that usually what you see as far as liability goes in those hospice cases, that they're kind of maybe kicking up the morphine a little bit?
I know what I see in the hospice cases is the lack of dignity.
Oh, okay.
You know, not giving them the pain medication that they need, or allowing them to bed rot. You know, they still need to be bathed. They still need to be fed if they have ability to eat. A lot of G-tube going on. You can't leave a person in the same position every day for hours on hours, shift after shift, because they're going to end up being commuted or stuck together. I've actually had a woman who was left in the same position for so long, days, that when they pulled her legs apart, all the skin came off.
Oh my gosh.
That's pure neglect. And I've also had a gentleman, man, left in the same position for so long. I don't want to be that gross, but his penis got stuck to his thigh, inner thigh, and they had to peel that off.
Oh my gosh.
And that's just taking care of creams and taking care of the skin and moving the individual and their position. You know, it's just I mean, those are the extremes. That's not happening every day. But in almost 30 years of doing this, I've seen everything.
Yeah.
I have seen everything. You'd be amazed at what I've seen.
I'm sure most of us can't imagine it because we shouldn't be able to imagine it. It's stuff that should be beyond imagination.
Yeah, no, it's things found in cavities and things swallowed and pressure sores the size of a dinner plate. I mentioned the ants, I mentioned the maggots, lice, moldy catheters, sepsis, rotting teeth, skin parts stuck together. I mean, but let's put it this way. My mother ran a nursing home for 34 years. And that's kind of where my direction was when I became a lawyer. And she ran a very good nursing home. The never been sued nursing home, a waiting list to get into her nursing home. But she was an old-fashioned hands-on nurse, with a lot of bedside manner. And she always used to say to me, David, these are residents. They live here. These aren't patients. Patients are in hospitals, doctors' offices. Doctors come and make visits here because this is their home. And her nursing home had a small chapel. Her nursing home had a big activity center, had a small gym, had a courtyard. And my mother made my brother and I go to the nursing home all the time. We planted the flowers, we shoveled the snow, we cut the grass. We went to they called it the Christmas Bazaar, which was like a Christmas fair. And we'd buy up all the things that the residents made, ornaments and stuff. We used to, back then in the 70s, up until I think maybe around the mid 80s, it used to be able to smoke. In the cigars or cigarettes, you're able to smoke in the dining room. And so the ceiling tiles
are all yellowed.
would turn yellow. And my mother would make my brother and I with a toothbrush and a bucket of what's that white bleach stuff, Clorox, and a rag, clean the damn strips and get the yellow off the strips. It was just a different time, it was just a different place. But I learned more about World War II.
Oh, I bet.
And in the 1950s and stuff from those in the nursing home than I did from any movie or book. Because they lived it. They lived it. I got to tell you that I was getting burnt out. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And so COVID was a good time to think. And I said, okay, I've made my mark. I've done my duty. I've made change. I've educated as much as I could. And then COVID was over. And lo and behold, I get the first jury trial assignment as soon as the courts opened up. So here I am back in the courtroom trying a case, and we won. So I said, you know what? I'm back in the game.
There's more to do, more work to be done.
There's more work to do. There's more messaging to make. There's more education to do. There's more advocacy. And so I guess I can say I'm back at it.
Right. Well, that's...
Yeah. So in terms of trying a elder abuse, elder neglect case, or trying a nursing home case now, post-COVID, the advice I can give is you got to try your case quickly. No more lingering. It's got to be fast. Okay. These juries make up their mind fast. Don't be wasting their time. right? The defense that represent the nursing homes love to drag it out. Time helps them. Drag it out, drag it out, drag it out. And some judges allow them to do that because the judges don't quite understand yet the reactions by jurors because they're not in the trenches anymore. They're up on a bench, looking down at them. And there's a new statistic. I mean, if you saw the Keenan blog today, there's a statistic out there currently where there's a dissatisfaction rate by the public of I think it might be 67% of courts. Right? They don't think they can get, justice in courts. So they don't care for courts. So that makes our job even harder because they don't want to be there even more now. So speed, quickly, try the case, move the case. And the other is visuals. And I'm going to ask you to pull a couple up for me in a second.
All right.
So the visuals are important. Speed and visuals. Speed and visuals. And I already mentioned that what the jurors in nursing home cases are angry at. And that's the lack of communication. So that's one of the things you're going to want to show to the jury, knowing that that's what angers them is this lack of communication. So in terms of visuals, the first trial that I just talked about was the staff. A woman was living in a group home, and the staff, she was on Percocet for pain management. And the staff for 3.5 years was stealing her Percocet. So for 3.5 years, she did not go with pain medication. And they were exchanging the Percocets for vitamin C tablets because they looked identical. And as she was expressing her pain, the doctor was thinking, well, the pain medication, the Percocet that I'm giving her isn't working, so I'm going to up it, right? And that just gave these two staff members that had this stealing the Percocet scheme going to get even more Percocets. And we had to try the case on a failure to supervise case. The group home administrators and operators, executive directors, and supervising nurses weren't supervising these people. I mean, if it went a month, you'd say, but 3.5 years?
Yeah. And were these CNAs?
They were the equivalent to a CNA.
Okay, so they didn't, so really the nurses were the ones who should have known, should have seen,
These two individuals were the ones going to the pharmacy and picking up all the medications. And then bringing them back, and you're supposed to log them in to the medicine cabinet, But so you take the perks, you put them in your pocket, and you put the vitamin C tablets in. Nobody's going to know crap.
So how did the jury, well, I guess you'll get to it, but I'm thinking, the nurse opens it, counts the tabs and says, okay, but did it miss the stamp? What was there that should have tipped off the nurse or whoever?
Well, there was a policy in place that the nurses were supposed to do the inventory. Not the idiots who went and picked up the meds. And so that wasn't happening. They were just all kind of trusting each other.
Yeah.
But they get caught because somebody called in sick and the prescription had to be picked up. So somebody else goes. So you're not the same person, all that kind of thing. So it became a major issue. However, they end up getting caught. So we took 3.5 years and added up how many tablets of Percocet ended up missing or not getting. And so, those Altoids mints, They look just like a Percocet. Okay. So if you can share the screen.
All right. I think this is the correct one based on what you're telling me. You tell me if it's the wrong one, but.
No, that's it.
That's it? All right.
That's 7,000 Altoids. You want some Altoids?
Wow.
All right. So that is, I brought that to court as a demonstrative aid with a chart of how many Percocets were supposed to be there and how many Percocets were taken. And so that sat there for the whole week and a half of trial. And now I still have it. So if anybody wants any Altoids, just let me know. And
Hoey's got the freshest breath on the block.
But telling them,
yeah,
it was 7,400 Altoids. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, Percocets versus this visual.
Yeah,
you should have heard the gasp when they saw it. You know, and then you always hear, "Oh my God," you know.
Yeah. It also goes to ringing my bell as I teach trial that this is something that doesn't go away. It's on a PowerPoint slide. It sits on your desk. So when we think about how to use visuals, certainly this visual right here is probably very compelling to the folks who are watching and whatnot, but this is going to go away when I stop sharing my screen. If the actual vase is sitting on counsel table, I mean, what's defense going to do? Make them hide the visual?
They asked me to take it down and put it underneath the table.
Okay.
But you can still see it.
Yeah.
You know, and then every once in a while I'd pull it out when you had a witness on the stand. And this is what's interesting is this trial, we had to try the case with masks on. The witness can take their mask off when they were testifying, but they had to put the mask back on at all other times. Okay. I was able to take my mask off for opening and closing, as long as I was 10 feet away from the jury. Other than that, I had to have my mask on. And the jurors all had to wear their masks on, including during deliberations.
Oh, wow.
I hope that never has to occur again.
Yeah.
I couldn't read the jury's faces.
I was just thinking that's a huge disadvantage.
Yeah, it was during closing. All I'm doing is looking at their eyes.
Yeah.
And they had a sit every other seat. It was difficult. We survived. We won. And I think part of the victory was due to the visuals. And this was one of the visuals that we used in the case. Shortly thereafter, I tried another case, and we call it the Halloween verdict because the verdict came in on Halloween. And it was a choking case, and it was heavily, heavily defended. Just we couldn't understand why.
Yeah.
Right. And somebody's calling me who's watching this right now.
Oh, really? Oh, that's interesting. We do have an audience question. Matthew, just hold on. I hope you're not calling David to try to get us to answer your question. We absolutely will. So just give us a moment.
Yeah. Okay. No, let's answer the question now before I go into the next visual.
Okay. So Matthew Fox asks, do you think that lack of communication applies only to nursing home cases or equally applicable to wrongful death, med mal? It's WD. I was like, oh my gosh, think what WD stands for. Wrongful death, med mal cases as well.
Well, if you've ever watched Greg Luther's medical malpractice seminars, one of the things that's lacking in the medical industry is the lack of communication among the disciplines.
Absolutely.
And another major part of medical malpractice cases is the informed consent issue, which is another form of lack of communication, both in writing and oral. So most med mal cases today are due to lack of communication. And all those other medical attitudes that go along with it, right? That the doctor got my records wrong. The doctor made me wait too long. You know, the doctor didn't inform me enough. The doctor didn't consult with a specialist. The doctor gave me the wrong medication. I mean, the list is on and on. Right? So, yeah, I mean, it is the core nowadays.
Yeah. And if you've ever, I don't know, Matthew, if you also do personal injury as well, but I've always found that to be the most frustrating part of handling a personal injury case, because you end up as a lawyer being the person who is like, hey, physical therapist, please tell the doctor that they need to do this, or please so-and-so refer to this. And it's one of the things that we started asking providers when our clients were going to them. Do you work with other providers? Do you talk to other providers? Do you refer to specialists? Because I mean, honestly, it's at least 80% of providers who don't. And we would even sometimes have providers where we would say specifically, hey, would you mind speaking to this other provider? And they would say, no, we don't do that. We don't talk to other providers. Yeah. And why that makes sense, I will never understand.
Because they're out of network.
Or it's just, I don't know what they do. They don't know what I do. We don't bother talking to each other. What are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, for crying out loud.
No, it's a major problem.
But yeah, so short answer, Matthew, yeah. Anything. I mean, lack of communication, I could think of a million things. I can even think of like premises cases and, I don't know, all kinds of things where lack of communication is going to make a jury angry.
Well, look at a premises case. Where does the premises case failure to warn of a known danger on the premises, failure to guard against the known danger on the premises, failure to repair. Okay. So it starts
owner and the management company, and then if they're not communicating, then all those things fall apart. Yeah.
Well, that's it. That's key. Communication's key. And nowadays, there's so many different forms of communication. That's where you can really get in trouble, between cell phones, texting, emails, Instagram, memos, handwritten notes, typewritten notes. It's just, sometimes there's too much communication.
I was just going to say that. Sometimes it's all there in writing. And you're like, wow, okay.
You got to read it.
Yeah, yes.
So I got like 10 minutes left. So the other case was a choking case. And those have become more popular now, unfortunately, than pre-COVID, because staff are not spending enough time with those who need help eating, and they either get the wrong food or they're choking for a number of reasons. And the older you get, the more higher risk you are for choking. If you've got dementia, you're at a high risk for choking. You forget to swallow, or you forget to chew, or there's a whole bunch of, or you're eating the wrong food, or you grab bread when you're not supposed to have bread in your diet, what have you. So this was a choking case, a heavily defended case. And the visual, we learn later, the visual of the time lapsing is what won the case. So if you can throw up for me a little, throw up, no, put up, you get it?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. Put up the timeline.
Okay.
There's a little timeline there.
A little throw up might have helped in the case.
Well, they didn't.
Or made worse.
Yeah. So this was the timeline that we used during trial.
I don't know if it's big enough. I'm going to zoom in and see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Simple. Keep it simple. March 1st, 2015, 8:15 p.m. The first note we have is a CNA noted Mrs. Miller was shaking at 8:25. Something's wrong. It takes 5 minutes before they start any CPR. Mind you, they don't do the Heimlich. 5 minutes before they start CPR. And the reason they waited 5 minutes before they could start CPR is when the CNA called for help, the LPN came running in the room and did not know if she was a DNR or not.
Okay.
So she leaves her, goes down to the nurse's station, pulls the DNR binder, realizes that they have to resuscitate her, goes back in the room and starts CPR. 5 minutes go by. Now, we all know that's too long. Okay. Then, this gets better. They call code blue, which means everybody who's available, come on down to the room. And some other LPN says, hey, did anybody call 911 yet? No. She calls 911. That's 12 minutes later. The EMS is on the scene at 8:43. You can imagine by then it's too late. They pull food out of her mouth and, transport her to the hospital. She's pronounced dead. 2 delays. Their policy and their training required them to call 911 immediately. 12 minutes is not immediate. You call 911 and then you start CPR or Heimlich. That was it. This was the visual. Then you had to go into why didn't you follow your training? Why didn't you call 911? Why didn't you know the DNR status? Why didn't the aide, and there was a phone in the room. Why didn't the aide call 911, then call for help? Panicked, didn't know what they were doing. It was a Sunday afternoon. You got skeleton crew, et cetera, et cetera. So that ended up with a verdict.
This helps because when you hear 5 minutes, it doesn't sound very long. When you hear 12 minutes, you think, okay, 911, okay, they're here within, let's see, 25 to 8:43, so under 20 minutes. Like, it just doesn't sound very long, especially those of us who live in cities where the cops are probably not coming for an hour. But, if you put it like this as a visual where it's like, oh, this is when they could have prevented it. Here's another time when they could have done something different. Here's another time, and it just gets longer and longer. It's very funny.
You also have the staff saying, yeah, we were trained to call 911 immediately. Yeah. We were trained to know what the DNR status of all the residents were. Yeah, we were. Yeah. So then that's how you couple it.
Yeah.
And then you show the jury the policy. Then you show the jury that there was a phone in the room, so it was feasible. Visuals and speed were the things I wanted to tell you. So
how have you cut down, let's say speed, for example, like trials were 2 weeks and you're trying to get them into 1, or what are your time frames?
I tell the judge each and every time, Judge, I'll be in and out in 5 days. So I manage my time within 5 days, and I make sure the jury hears that. And then the defense is like, well, I don't know, Judge. I got an expert problem. I don't know.
The expert's not available until a month later. Like, why?
But then I will do my case in less than 5.
Okay.
I'll make it a point. That's my schedule. I say 5, I do it in 4.
Okay.
Yeah. No need to drag out witnesses. Who are you? What do you do? What do you know about what happened? Let me ask you a few more questions. Was there a policy in place to call 911 immediately? Was it followed? How come? That's it. That's it.
Yeah. I am the queen of making things way too long. I fact things up. I'm like, I gotta ask this other question. What if they don't understand this? What if they don't get that? But that's inspiring.
All right. So I'm going to leave you with that because it's been an hour.
All right.
But I'll cover any final question that you may have.
What would you say is the number one, or maybe even a couple of things to look for in a facility if you're putting your loved one there, or if you are facing possibly going there yourself?
So one of the things that a family can do is when they go and they're looking at nursing homes. Part of the problem is there isn't many that have availability. So let's say you find one or two that has availability. You want to know their deficiency history. Their deficiency history is public record. It has to be posted in the lobby of the nursing home, and it'll tell you whether they're a 1 to 5 star facility. Okay. In today's day and age, there isn't a lot of 5s left. So if you got a 3.5 or better, then they're decent. But you want to look at what deficiencies they're getting cited for. Is it quality of care or is it bad food? You know. So every nursing home gets inspected once a year. They get issued a report card, right? And they get issued a speeding ticket, which is a deficiency. And then they have the ability to fix it or pay a fine. So key to number one is, what's that quality of care score? What's their deficiency history? And that's your starting point. And then obviously the obvious. If it smells like urine and feces, something's wrong. If it smells neat and clean and you have a friendly face that greets you at the door, so far it's a positive. But nothing's perfect anymore. You're not going to get perfection anymore. So my other advice is visit all the effing time.
Okay. Yeah, you're not going to
communicate.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Hoey. I appreciate you being here again. And thank you to all of you who joined us for this week's episode of Fridays with Keenan's Cutting Edge. If you liked the episode, please click that thumbs up button to feed the YouTube algorithm. When you do that, it shows YouTube that you think the content is interesting and useful, and therefore you'll see more of it. We are still signing up speakers for the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for more live episodes. Thank you to those of you who reached out to me and gave me topic suggestions or people that you want to hear from. It's so helpful. So please continue to do that so that we can bring you more of what you want and more of what you will find helpful in your practice. If you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, or if you have someone that you want to hear from, please email me, email Hoey, email somebody on the staff. I know that you know where to find us. So please do that. Let us know. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time.
Good seeing you.